Welcome back to the channel, everybody. How you doing? Today we are going to talk about The Wheel of Time, the whole series. I read the whole series besides the New Spring. I did not want to read that because I have a lot of thoughts about this series. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of dislikes. I'm going to probably get some hate on this video, but that's fine. I'm here to speak my mind. I'm going to tell you guys the pros and the cons of what I felt like with The Wheel of Time. For those of you who don't know what The Wheel of Time is, maybe you guys shouldn't watch this video. It's a 14.5 series of basically like Lord of the Rings, except more modern. I listened to some of Robert Jordan's videos of what he was describing, because he was talking about how like a farm boy, why would a farm boy just like up and go when some random wizard just shows him and be like, hey, we gotta go save the world? Instead, he was like, well, I'll go grab my stuff and then I'm hopping out the window and leaving. And I thought that was a really fun way to describe it. And he definitely poured that into this book a lot. So we're going to talk about the pros first, because my pros is actually way shorter than my cons list. And then we're going to talk about the cons and then my final thoughts about Wheel of Time. So one thing about the pros, I wrote down on my notes of like the pros and the cons of this so I can remember everything. One of the things I will say about the pros, it's a general thing, but his description of battles is really good. I like the way that Jordan can describe things of battle mostly, and I really have enjoyed that, where you feel like, yeah, I'm there. There's a lot of times where he did describe a lot of these battles where you did feel like you were there. Like the time when Rand gets the sword and he uses the sword in Lord of Chaos, you felt like you were there, and it was really impactful the way that he can describe a lot of battles and fights in general when you get to them. So I really did enjoy those moments in this book, that the description of battles, the way he can do fighting, and even sometimes of how he can describe how characters look is really good sometimes. Another thing, a lot of people, this is two is the same thing, but when you think of fantasy, a lot of people think of world building and the magic system. Brandon Sanderson is a lot of people's like, it's him or nobody else can do it. I would like to somewhat disagree. There's a lot of authors that can do that just as well. Jordan also has done it where he has described world building and his magic system. I like his magic system. I like the balance between man and woman and of how they align with each other and how they have to work together to become the one power. I really do like those elements of the magic system, how to like work, how men work their power versus how women work their power. It's really interesting and fascinating to actually sit back and think about it. When I first started reading it, I didn't really think too much about it, but towards the end of the book, I really sat back and like absorbed all of it, of the way that the one power works, of how the magic system works in this world, and it's just so compelling that I really enjoy it. And I'm not much of a magic system guy. I don't really care. I'm one that like, as long as there could be magic in the world for fantasy, obviously, as long as it's not overly explained to me every book, I'm cool with it. I like soft magic systems more because it's like you don't have to explain it by every detail, and that's just me though. But I did like the magic system. World building, I'm not gonna go too deep in that because it's world building. He does a really good job at it. You can definitely tell there is a lot of elements of historical events, historical cities and states and everything that he definitely looked into while building his own world of our own history that he was influenced by, and you can definitely see it in his books. And I really appreciate that a lot. Another pro I have, this is the last pro. I only have like 4 pros because the rest of them are cons, and maybe it's just me. Like I said, this is my own opinion, but this one kind of falls in the line of between a pro and a con, so it's like more in the middle. And as his characters, a lot of his characters are really good, but then they're also really bad. His characters are really good. It takes a long time for them to get there, but man, the problem is because this book is so long, if you don't like one character, you might not like that character for the rest of the book. I'm talking about Egwene. I'm not a big fan of Egwene. Never was, never will be. When I am around characters who fail upwards and just keeps getting rewarded for all these things that they are terrible at, it drives me insane. So to me, I think there's just elements that he did in this book that I really liked, and then also I didn't like. Like Perrin, he screwed Perrin over a lot. Perrin was easily one of the greatest characters until like book 5 started rolling, and then he just went right downhill. It was kind of upsetting. Matt, though, on the other hand, Matt became such a good character. After probably the second book, Matt really started picking up as his own character. And Rand at first was fine, but then he started growing into his own self, and he became such a good character, which is awesome. Even Naive, who I did not like at all at the beginning, she grew into her own character as well. So like when you have like the final group, all of them were growing really well in some aspects, and then you have others that just did not grow at all, and they arguably became worse, and that's just how I was feeling when I was reading this. So, cons. This is a big thing when I think about, especially modern fantasy nowadays, and a lot of people always talk about, because they always talk about romantasy. With modern fantasy, they always say, well, the romance in fantasy is always bad, and that's why a lot of people say romantasy is going to take over fantasy because the romance is so good, but it's not. The romance in romantasy is just smut. It's not like actual romance. That's why with modern fantasy, I think it has gotten a lot better for the romance. Now, for the Wheel of Time, the romance is god awful. The romance is really bad in this. You have characters that hate each other one page, and then the next chapter or the next book, when you see them again, they're dating, they're together, they're getting married, and you're like, why did this happen? A lot of people were commenting saying, oh, well, that's just how young kids are. Not really. Like, as a teenager myself, I was a teenage boy once. If I didn't like a girl, doesn't mean I wanted to date her or anything after. Like, I did not like her. I didn't want to be around her. Especially because how he writes a lot of the women in this book is really bad. I don't like the way he writes women. They're all the same exact character, and it's hard to get behind any of these characters. That's why, like, for me, I really like Moraine in this book, because Moraine was different than literally every single character in this book that were all women. I just didn't like how he wrote the women. They were all the same. It's copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. With the romance, I didn't like it. I didn't like how, like, Rand having 3 wives is kind of already weird. Some of them didn't even make sense. Like, Elena, like, fell in love with Rand immediately. Like, those two fell in love immediately, and Rand just fell in love with her because she was a princess and she was hot. So it's like, I mean, that's a guy thing, but still, it's like, she met Rand once and she was immediately like, I'm in love with Rand. All she did is talk about Rand. I just didn't really see a lot of these relationships happening. The only one that felt pretty good was Perrin's, but also it's like his wife was just such a pain in the butt, just listening to her talk and just how mean she was to every single person. It's just like, oh my gosh, it just felt very annoying with the way that he wrote women. And that's like a con of mine, is every woman was the same in this book series, I swear. And there were so many times where I didn't know who was talking because they were all the same. They all acted the same. And I get it, like how the Aes Sedai acted, but it's like at the same time, it's like, give these characters some personality, man. Like, half of them, it feels like half of them could have been stripped off and out of the book because it was just same exact characters. That was like my biggest thing, is like sometimes I was reading, I'm just like, who is this? Because I don't know who you are, but you act just like Nynaeve, you act just like Egwene, you act just like Elaine. So it's like, oh my gosh, you act just like Min. Actually, Min is arguably one of the best female characters because she's not like the rest of them, and I actually kind of like Min because she's not like them. Even Aviendha was kind of cool. At first, I really didn't like Aviendha because she was acting like the rest, but guess what? Throughout these books, she grew into a really good character, and I really liked Aviendha at the end. But it doesn't help when all of them are still the same, and you only have like 2 or 3 of them that really shine compared to everyone else. So it was really hard for me to get into it. When Matt and Tom went to go save Moraine and Tom just started dating, like immediately. Like, she confesses love, and then boom, now they are together. And I'm like, where is this? Why is this happening? I'm like, I don't like this kind of stuff for like a romance, especially all characters. It's fine if you have some characters that do it, but it's like, dude, it's 14 books. Give me a little bit of time with these characters to be together. Some of them were just awful. It was annoying. I wrote one on here that I thought was kind of funny, and I giggled because I immediately was like, oh my gosh, it's so true. The way that so I took a break. I read the first like 5 Wheel of Time books, and then in 2024 I decided to finish them all, and I did, and holy crap, I'm glad I did, because now I can say I finished the Wheel of Time. And I was supposed to finish Stormlight too, because I had it all planned out, but it's like, I might try and finish the last 3 Stormlight books, and then I might do a video like this in the future. Who knows? I wrote this down as a con because it's very true. He constantly uses a lot of the same words, and sometimes, like, I think everyone will understand this one. Women, she tucked her hands under her breasts. Might be the most annoying one. Also, the tugging of the hair. Oh my gosh. Those 2 alone will be ingrained in my head for the rest of my life, because guess what? That's all the women do. If they're mad, they tuck their hair. They just tug it. They tug their ponytails. And like, that's all they do constantly. It's just like, man, what? Like, give them something, make them do something else, stop their feet or something, or roll their eyes. Holy crap. It's just so irritating listening to it. And I just kept rolling my eyes because I'm pretty sure it happened at least 3 times in every chapter. Guaranteed, at least 3 times every chapter. One of those 2 easily. And there's a plenty of other things of repetitiveness that happen in this series, and I'm sure you guys will comment down below to let me know which ones they are, because why not? But yeah, I really struggle with this series a lot. It's not just that, but the other one is the pacing in this book is really slow. I don't have a problem with slow burn fantasy. I call it slow burn fantasy, where it's just you're in it, you're slowly getting there, it's just world building. But I swear the way some of these characters are is when they are like, we can't waste time, proceeds to waste time for chapters or books to finally get to one thing. Like the stupid bowl for the slog era is just annoying. I literally could not believe that we waited like 4 books just to get the bowl so we can fix the weather. I'm like, really? Like, this is what we wasted? You know, like stuff like that. I just felt like a lot of it was very annoying and tedious, and we just couldn't get to the point. Now, like I said, one of my all-time favorite fantasy series of all time is A Memory, Sorrows, and Thorn. Now, that is a definition of a slow burn fantasy. Granted, it's only 3 books, and there's probably some things that could have been cut from it, but hey, at least it was only 3 books, and Ty Williams was getting to the point in those 3 books. It just felt like with The Wheel of Time, it took us books to get to the point, and I was just like, wow, can we like speed this up, dog, a little bit? Like I felt like I think this book series could have been either 7 to 8 books, and it would easily have been the greatest fantasy series of all time. There are so many good elements in this book. There really is, but they are overshadowed by so much bad stuff that's repetitive, that's just info dump, that's just over describing what a curtain looks like, or someone's dress, or someone's hair, or the wall. Robert Jordan probably could write like a chapter of just talking about a wall, the description of a wall. Don't get me wrong, he's really good at writing, but it just felt like there was a lot of elements. It's like, dude, just get to the point. And then there was times where it's like, oh, there's a fight happening. The fight, which is crazy to me, is like these books are so descriptive of everything else, but sometimes when it comes to the fights, like I said, it was a pro. Sometimes in these fights, they would be over in like half a page, and you're like, so you're telling me you couldn't describe this to be longer, like 5 pages, but you can describe what the dress looks like that Naive is wearing for a conversation? Like it was rough. I mean, as a whole, I will never reread this. It blows my mind that people will reread this. I'm a fan of fantasy, but it's like, holy crap, I realize now I don't like fantasy series that are like 10 books anymore. I'm more of a trilogy kind of guy now, because it's like I have so many books that I want to read in my life that I don't want to feel the same way like I have with The Wheel of Time. And I also feel the same thing with the Stormlight Archive. I don't want to keep reading books that are going to take so long, and it might just waste my time. And that's the sad reality, is I just was not satisfied with The Wheel of Time. There was a lot of good moments, but there's also a lot of bad. There was more bad than there is good. I will die on that hill forever, and I get it. The book sold 75 million copies. It's really popular. I get it. The show's really bad. I tried watching this show and I was like, this show sucks. As a whole, with the Wheel of Time series, I was not a fan of it. I just don't think I could ever recommend anyone reading the Wheel of Time. If anyone asked me, hey, what's a fantasy series you would recommend me? I would not say Wheel of Time at all, ever. Unless you want to read a really big fantasy series, then go for it. I also like long fantasy series too, because you want to live in this world. And that's one of the things I see a lot of people talk about with the Wheel of Time. Everyone's like, I really liked it because you were there with these characters for so long. You got to see them grow. I get it. But it's also like, man, you could have seen them all grow in 8 books and been satisfied with it. That's how I always felt with the series. I just was so tired because a lot of the characters felt stale and they didn't progress at all for books. And it's just like, oh my gosh. So that was like one of my biggest pet peeves with the series. If you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. Let me know down below what you guys think about the Wheel of Time. Do you guys also agree with me with the Wheel of Time? Or do you guys think I'm just an idiot and don't agree with me at all and think I just have a really bad taste in this epic saga? I would like to know both of your thoughts down below. And of course, make sure you guys stay safe, stay humble, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay weird.